I got to show you this. So yesterday, ESPN's NFL Football Power Index season projections were released, all right? So our analytics gurus, our nerds, as we call them, put out their FPI. And so we're going to do buy or sell on some of these numbers with Dan Graziano and Louis Riddick. So Graziano, ESPN's FBI has the Eagles with a 20% chance to make the Super Bowl, which is the highest of any team in the NFL. So my question is, are you buying that the Eagles have the best chance of any team to make it to the Super Bowl?
Now, I got to be the wet blanket here and sell. I mean, look, the Eagles are great, and there's every reason to love them, but it's just so hard to repeat. We even saw it a couple of years ago when the Eagles looked like they should be the class of the NFC, and they fell apart late. A lot of things have to go right. San Francisco should be better. Dallas should be better. The North is still loaded. I think it's tough to say the Eagles get back in there. Plus, Greeny, remember, they can't win their division.
That's right. And no team has repeated in 21 years. Who is the biggest threat, Louis Riddick? This right now, who do you think is the biggest threat to Philadelphia in the NFC?
It's Washington. It's Washington, Green, because they're making all the right moves. Look, I know we want to conveniently say, well, Jaden Daniels can't have another season like he had last year. Well, why not? Why can't he? Did Cliff Kingsbury go anywhere? No. Did they add some protection on the offensive line? Yeah. Laramie Tunsil and the drafting of Josh Connerly are huge. It's huge. It all started up front with them anyway. Deebo Samuel, that acquisition is huge because we know he's a multi-tool player. And we know that a guy like Jaylen Lane, who they draft from Virginia Tech, he's an absolute stud in terms of his ability to add another speed component to go along with Terry McLaurin. And really, you know what? Here's the biggest thing. If they hit on Trey Amos, the corner that they draft out of Ole Miss, and we saw Washington just get obliterated in the NFC Championship game by Philadelphia through the air on the perimeter. If Trey Amos can be that dude, I'm telling you, everything is looking up for Washington. Everything is looking up.
I completely agree. We'll see if they're able to have the bigger year in the second season for the quarterback. Of all the numbers that I saw yesterday, one that really jumped out at me was this. Our FPI has the 49ers with an over 62% chance to make the playoffs. You're saying, what does that mean? It means they have the third best chance of any team in the NFC behind only the Eagles and the Lions. It's telling us they are the best team in the NFC West. Lewis, are you buying that?
No, I'm not. Look, this situation here worries me because, one, let's just start on the offensive side of the football. And let's talk about this offensive line, which along with the defensive line has been a hallmark of this organization. It's really set the tone in terms of the way that they like to play. What will that unit look like? Okay. Number two, what will Christian McCaffrey's availability look like in terms of his durability? Is it ever going to be where they really need it to be? Is he going to be a 16, 17 game player? And on the defensive side, Greeny, they're trying to revamp everything up front with the drafting of all the youth that they did this year to kind of give Robert Saleh, their new defensive coordinator, their old defensive coordinator, now new defensive coordinator, some guys to really work with once again. And the Rams are legit in the West. The NFC's stacked. I just don't know how they're not going to win the division. How do they get in as a wild card considering all the strength that exists in the North and in the East overall with all the improvements those teams have made?
I agree with you. I'm surprised by that projection. We'll see. In the meantime, Graziano, I was a little less surprised by this one, but still surprised. ESPN's FPI has the Cowboys with a 30% chance to make the playoffs. Let me put this in perspective. That is the fourth worst of any team in the NFC. They're saying the only teams in the NFC worse than Dallas are the Panthers, the Saints, and the Giants. Dan, are you buying the Cowboys being that level of bad?
I am not. I'm selling this. Now, look, I see where they're coming from because the two teams that were in the NFC Championship game are in Dallas's division. So they're not saying the only three teams that are worse than Dallas are those three. They're saying that's the teams that have the less chance to make the playoffs. But Dallas is getting Dak Prescott in an offseason where nobody could find a good option at quarterback. Dallas is adding Dak Prescott, who missed the second half of last season due to injury. There is every reason to believe they will be improved. They won 7 games last year in a season where they played half the year without their quarterback. I am not buying that there are 12 teams in the NFC with a better chance to make the playoffs than the Dallas Cowboys, who, when Dak Prescott has played fully healthy seasons, have consistently been a playoff contender.
What do you think, Lewis?
Yeah, this is a tricky one for me, man, because I think I've said before that I think Dallas, look, I don't believe they're going to win the division. I think they're the third best in the East. And look, obviously we talked about the North and, we just talked about the West and how it looks with the Rams. This is touch and go with me. I think they're going to be right on the cusp. Quite honestly, I think the key is this. Obviously, Dak's availability is key. Him playing 16, 17 games has to be a certainty, I think, in order for them to be a playoff team. And quite honestly, the Tyler brothers on their offensive line, Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker, all those offensive linemen who are studs, they have to all pan out and they got to be able to own the line of scrimmage. If they can do those, if they can get those two things going for them, Dak stays healthy, the offensive line becomes like some kind of semblance of what it used to be like when you played the Dallas Cowboys, which was you knew you were in for a beatdown with their physicality up front, then they have a shot. But look, I don't know. I'm really on the fence with this football team this year.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not sitting here telling you I think the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl, but only the Panthers, the Saints, and the Giants. That means that the FPI is projecting Arizona has a better chance to make the playoffs, projecting that the Bears have a better chance to make the playoffs, and everybody else besides those teams that
it was there and it was gone. It felt like the sun. This is going to feel good, too. We're 100 days away from the start of the NFL season. Some news from the league on Tuesday. Bills running back James Cook not at the team's voluntary OTAs. He's in the last year of his rookie deal, looking for a contract extension. Cook tying a franchise record with 16 rushing touchdowns last season. Also not at the beginning of voluntary OTAs, Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins. He's been around the team just a bit this spring, currently the backup to Michael Penix Jr. Cousins is guaranteed $27.5 million this season. He has told the team he does want to be a starter again. And the wait for Aaron Rodgers continues. But a Steelers legend has let his feelings known about the team's pursuit of the four-time MVP. Hall.
This was Terry Bradshaw talking about Aaron Rodgers potentially joining Terry's old team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just listen.
That's a joke. He shouldn't. That is just, to me, is a joke. What are you going to bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? That guy needs to stay in California. Thank you. Thank you. Chew on bark and risk the guys out there. You get this presence and you feel like it's going to start snowing. So.
Does anyone have a reaction to that? Sometimes things can be presented without comment.
Chew
Dan?
on bark?
Chew on bark.
Chew on bark is an interesting burn. I never heard that one before, but it's nice to hear.
I've never heard when you get in someone's. I never heard when you get in someone's presence, you feel like it's going to start snowing either. I know. I don't like the cold no more than anybody, but I've never said that before.
It's just a very strange combination of things for Terry to say. We thought it was interesting. We thought we'd play it for you, and then we'd move on to a game called Is That Ridiculous with Louis Riddick. And this one I think is really interesting. Yesterday, Kirk Cousins was not present at the Falcons' OTAs. I found that significant. Is it ridiculous to say he will be on a different team by the time we get to week one?
No, I don't think that's ridiculous at all, Greeny. And I think the speculation is going to heat up. I think this is obviously what Atlanta's front office is kind of banking on, that as we move through the offseason, in the training camp, there's always going to be movement at the quarterback position. There's always going to be a team that figures, hey, look, we can level up with one of these veteran acquisitions somewhere, somehow, and maybe Kirk is that guy. And look, the speculation connecting him to Pittsburgh, I understand it, I get it. What does Arthur Smith run and play action pass? From 2018 to 2024, Kirk's time in Minnesota, his first year in Atlanta. The guy was top half of the league in terms of QBR on play action. He was number 3 in that time in CPOE, completion percentage over expected. He still has some time left in him. I think that offense would fit him, quite honestly. Let's just see where this all plays out, but I can definitely see that happening.
Graz, walk us through how that would happen if it were to happen.
Would have to be a trade. Atlanta has made it clear that they're not going to cut Kirk Cousins. He would like to be on another team. He has a no-trade clause, so he has some say over where he goes. But the key thing, Greeny, is $37.5 million in guaranteed money. 27.5 this year, 10 next year. Is an acquiring team going to pick up enough of that money to make Atlanta happy enough to do a trade? Otherwise, they have said and they have acted like they're comfortable having him as Michael Penix's backup this year.
I will see if he's able, or willing, I should say, to push the issue. Let me go to the next one, Louis. If I were to say, and perhaps I would say it hopefully, Justin Fields is going to have a career year in 2025. Is that ridiculous?
Not ridiculous at all. Again, Greeny, look, this offensive line in New York, which is where it all starts for these young quarterbacks, They got 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick on this offensive line. They've got to be better. They've got to establish the run, especially with the running backs that they have as well. And look, Tanner Engstrand, the new offensive coordinator, and we said it before, it's staring him right in the face as far as what, philosophically the approach should be for this team. Quarterback run, feature the running backs, lean on this offensive line, play action pass. So could Justin Fields have a career year which would primarily be comprised of 20-plus touchdown passes, 3K plus in passing yards, 800 plus in rushing yards? I absolutely could see it happening. And that would be a career year for him. I don't see why, if this team stays on the field in terms of everyone staying healthy, that Justin can't have that kind of year.
All right, I like the way you're thinking. Let me skip to the last one here because I want to have plenty of time for this. You and I spent a lot of the draft talking about Shadeur Sanders. If I were to say he is going to be the starter for Cleveland by week 6, is that ridiculous?
It's not ridiculous, although that's a start on the road in Pittsburgh. It's not ridiculous, but if they're looking to really set him up, I see it's a week 7. I think week 7's a home game for Cleveland against the Miami Dolphins. That really seems ideal. And I know we're splitting hairs. Week 6, week 7, what the hell's the difference? Look, I wouldn't be shocked to see Shadeur Sanders in a true competition wind up winning the starting job coming out of training camp. I don't see that being ridiculous either. If you were to make that the stipulation of this segment. Look, I'm a believer in the guy. I'm a believer in his talent. I'm a believer in his makeup. I'm a believer in his football horsepower. I think he has as good a chance as any to surprise everyone as far as the people who are naysayers.
You see their first 6 games this year. Graziano, I'm going to make a prediction here, and you're our insider extraordinaire on the show. I am predicting that when we get into training camp, we're going to start hearing from you. Everyone I'm talking to people in Cleveland, they're so pleasantly surprised with how good he looks, how he's picking up the offense. Oh, all of a sudden, they're very enthusiastic about what they're seeing. Oh, he's going to get into a preseason game. He's going to look great. I stake my reputation as an evaluator, Dan, of which I have absolutely none, that Shadeur Sanders is going to prove some of us right and everyone else wrong and become the starting quarterback in Cleveland. What do you think, Danny?
100% possible. This is a wide open competition. If the Browns had to play this week, the starter would probably be Joe Flacco by default. He has the most experience. But this is a wide open 4-way competition. Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Shadeur Sanders. If Shadeur Sanders is the best guy out of those 4, if they get to the end of training camp and they feel like he's the guy that gives them the best chance to win their week 1 game, then I believe he will be the starter. This is what's beautiful about this. All the evaluations now from the outside folks are out the window, whether it's Lewis or you, Greeny, or Mel Kiper or whoever. Now we get to find out. It's going to be merit-based. If he's the best guy, he will play. Cleveland has set it up that way, and the fact that they drafted him where they did means that there's nothing that will trump that. It will be a true meritocracy, and he'll play if he's the best one.
Yeah, they literally drafted another quarterback a round ahead of him. So we will see. Again, I have no reputation.
Now, if you watched our Sunday video, one of our Sunday videos, you know we discussed Jaylen Ramsey. I don't want to rehash too much of that. A trade, I think, is likely, just might not be to the Dallas Cowboys. On the heels of Adam Schefter's latest report saying that he thinks a deal gets done in the coming weeks, if not days, basically, for Jaylen Ramsey, the current Dolphins corner sent out this rather cryptic tweet. It just said 5, ... Okay, well, what does that mean? Why would he say that? Brian Windhorst style, right? First up, that's his number. Okay, want to acknowledge it. But 5 days away from June 1st, which is when it becomes more financially feasible, ideal even, for the Dolphins to live up to their word when they've said they're going to trade away Jaylen Ramsey and deal him. Contract breakdown. $16.6 million cap hit right now. If the Dolphins were to agree to a trade and trade him today, which includes the process of it, finalizing it, doing the paperwork, etc., they'd actually lose $12.5 million of that current cap hit. So you go from 16.6 to 16.6 plus 12.55. If they do it after June 1st, they push a bunch of dead money off into 2026 when cap goes up, they have more cap space, etc., and they save a little under $6 million. So it kind of gets that Dolphins' current cap space closer to 20. Not quite 20, but close to it. The cash is a factor. The money, I think, is the crux of this issue right now. I don't think the Dolphins were getting great offers during the NFL draft because Ramsey's owed $21.1 million in cash this year. That is not how it hits the salary cap. It is spaced out over several years, but at minimum, it's 1 year, $21 million, 2 years, $42. So you're paying him a lot of money, even if the potential cap hit is 1 year. For year one is like 5, and then the other 16 comes in year 2. That's still a lot of money. I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are going to trade for Jaylen Ramsey. As fun, as exciting as that would be, do not get me wrong. I do think he's moved soon, though. I do think once we get to June 1st, even if it's not on June 1st itself, or if it comes out a day earlier or 2 days earlier, and it all gets kind of shifted ahead and we hear more buzz, like it'll be finalized on June 2nd, whatever, I do think he's moved soon. I just don't think it'll be with the Dallas Cowboys. It doesn't have to be trade. This could be a cut candidate, which the Dolphins, by the way, are not cutting Jaylen Ramsey. It's not going to happen. That $21 million is guaranteed. They're not going to eat that amount of money. Will Dallas make another big move? Y for yes, N for no.